You're listening to CreepGeeks Podcast. This is Season 6, Episode 254.
Ghost Adventures 2022, Foo Fighter over NC, Geomagnetic Reversal, and Turkey's Attack breaks hips. All right, well, hello and welcome to the CreepGeeks Podcast. I'm Greg.
I'm Omi.
And this is the CreepGeeks Podcast, where we talk about weird and paranormal news, humorous paranormal stuff, strange things that we find on the interesting internet. You know, and stuff that we do. Yeah, it is kind of, the more you dig, the filthier you get. And anyway, we found some things we thought we'd like to speak to you about, and a lot of it is stuff that we find to be interesting, so hopefully to be a good show. Mm-hmm. And by hopefully, it is. It's going to be a good show.
Yeah.
So anyway, as we roll into the podcast, there's a couple things we'd like to talk about. One of the things that we continually talk about is how you can get a hold of us. We have a toll-free number that nobody seems to use, but we're going to put it out there anyway.
That phone number is going to be 575-208-4025.
Right. It's a Roswell area code. We put a lot of great thought and thought we were super clever.
Yeah.
And we weren't. But no, you can call and leave us a message if you have something you'd like to share, a voicemail type thing. You can also get a hold of us on Facebook. If you look for CreepGeeks, you'll find us. You can share stuff there and interact with us with our funny and amusing things we do.
Yes, persistent meme sharing.
Yes, there's a lot of memeries going on. We like to share stuff and interact and then do all that good stuff. And we also have a pretty prolific Instagram.
Yes.
We have tens of followers.
That's
on there.
Really?
No, we got way more than that. But no, there's we try to dabble in all the social medias, including TikTok and Spotify and Apple Podcasts, and anywhere you want to get a podcast, you can, and you can find us, I should say, anywhere. We're everywhere. You can find us everywhere. And if you're one of these people that like to listen to long-form audio content on YouTube because you don't want to download a podcast player, you can certainly do that because our podcasts are on YouTube. If you search for CreepGeeks, you'll find us, and it's #listenable.
Yeah.
And what that means is that you can start it and run off and do other stuff, and you're not going to miss interesting video things because it's #listenable.
Yeah.
And that's part of, I think, what YouTube is trying to do as far as adding audio podcasts to YouTube specifically for that reason. So if you want to catch us on YouTube, just it's easier just to type CreepGeeks, and there you go. Mm-hmm. Very nice. So you ready?
Sure.
All right. So anyway, kind of coming across this stuff, kind of found a couple different things. And this is one thing that angers a lot of people that we know. Not everybody, but some people that are super serious about all the paranormal stuff, or at least think they are.
Yeah. And
it's the same thing we've done every so often, and bring it up because it does aggravate some people. But it also gets more interaction.
What is that?
It's Ghostober. And you know what Ghostober is? No, you don't.
I would
It's
assume.
made up.
Yeah, well, obviously.
It's like the Travel Channel, right? They're calling it Ghostober, coming this fall.
Oh, wow.
Right. And so what this is basically centered around events and spooky things that are going to happen in October on the Travel Channel. Now, if you're not aware of the Travel Channel, you might as well just call it the Ghost Adventures Channel.
And it's owned by Discovery.
Yes.
So.
And Discovery Plus is in there too. And if you follow Ghost Adventures at all, they disappeared off Travel Channel for a while, and they were there sporadically, and it just kind of went away because they took all these Ghost Adventures things with Zach Baggins or Bagans and everybody else. Like, I don't remember. Anyway, and they went away.
Yeah.
Right. All the new stuff was on Discovery Plus, and if you wanted to see it, you got to spend that $4.95 a month. And I think what's happened is a lot of people said no, thank you.
Yeah.
Because it's like, man, by the time you add Hulu and Discovery Plus and HBO Max Plus and Amazon and everything else, man, you're rocking like an $80 cable bill just to be able to stream stuff. Whereas it used to be, you complained about having cable and paying like $85 a month. And now it's like by the time you add all these little, it's cheap, it's only $5. You add them all up and you can't even buy your Starbucks anymore.
But on top of that, I do think it's an accessibility issue in the sense that I think they miss their demographic. A large portion of people who watch some of these paranormal shows, as well as like, I'll go so far as to say like, okay, I'm really into the Gold Rush shows, and the demographic is people who live more rural who watch some of those shows. We don't have access to Plus and Wi-Fi and high-speed internet to stream. So I think, if Gold Rush on Discovery is like a really good show, like really popular and has the best ratings, and then like Ghost Adventures on Travel Channel is like one of their highest ranking shows, but their demographic doesn't have the capacity to stream, you're just wasting everybody's time there.
Well, I agree with you because we're in that boat, right?
Yeah.
However, it's always been a problem and always will be a problem of scale.
Yeah.
A small number of people can't watch the show. A larger number of people can watch the show. So what do they? I'll take it back. Here's where it started. Okay,
Yeah.
Go back in the old school web design days where there wasn't like HTML 1 through 5. It was just basically HTML.
Yeah.
HTML is like Windows 95. You went from basically a weird GUI to boom, here's Windows 95, and then it turned into Windows 98, and that's kind of been the sweet spot for a while.
Mm-hmm.
Basically, when you were designing websites back early in the 2000s, you made two. You made one full of all these graphics that load slow and bog down your slow internet experience, like your slow website and everything. And then you had another one, which had basically scaled down graphics or less graphics, and it was much faster for people to be able to utilize the internet because, they were doing dial-up or their internet was very slow and DSL was super tiny, and it was basically a consideration. Like, not everybody has fast internet.
Yeah.
So let's make a light version. And in some cases, it would even give you a choice.
Yeah.
You want non-images or images, and it made sense for a lot of people to, to do it. Now they don't care. They really don't. They straight up do not care. I mean, like. But
if you're only going to offer a show like paranormal shows through your Plus or streaming service.
Well, that's money. That's all about money.
And they miss the mark because they didn't analyze their demographic very well. Sure, Discovery Channel, has a high concentration of viewers in more developed areas. But then when you break it down by shows or shows that are on Discovery and Travel Channel, and you're like, oh, but this particular show, the demographic, they're mostly not capable of streaming.
I guarantee you that was not a consideration at all.
Probably not, which is a failure.
It wasn't, because they're like, people got phones. They just watch it on their phone.
Yeah.
They don't care. They're not targeting stuff to the older generation. They're targeting people in the younger generation because everybody plays on phones. That's like, hey, if you record a video, make sure to rotate your phone.
You don't have to say that anymore.
No, because now they don't want you to rotate your phone. They don't want that landscape view. They want portrait. Everything is designed. Have you seen the size of the windows when you rotate your phone watching like a YouTube video?
Yeah.
It's not even a big square to watch anymore. It's like a little tiny, tiny little square to watch and a bunch of crap underneath it. All intentional. They don't care. So speaking of don't care, a lot of people didn't care to want to spend the $4.95 to watch ghost shows. Now, that's not all there is on Discovery Plus. There's everything else that's there that you used to be able to see for free. But anyway, long story short, it appears that Ghost Adventures is back or coming back to regular Travel Channel and Discovery Plus at the same time.
And watch the ratings come back.
Yeah.
Yeah.
And the ratings, whatever, man. They are what they are. But and here's the thing about the Ghost Adventures and those guys. They pretty much made Travel Channel a channel.
Yeah.
And as much as everybody hates them, and they spend, the Ghost Adventure guys, they go out into a place and they get, spend all this time trying to rustle up a spirit, and then they freak out when they do, right? And people hate them and all this stuff, and they talk trash. These dudes have been around for 26 seasons.
True.
26.
Yeah.
There is no other paranormal show on TV that's anywhere close to that. So love them or hate them, and it's easy to hate. Well, I hate that guy. We have a paranormal group, and I'm like, and nobody knows who you are. Nobody cares. And we're in that boat, too.
Yeah.
And they're like, well, I don't get it. Like, nobody cares, bro.
Yeah.
Nobody cares about us. Nobody cares about you. And the reason being is it's nothing personal. Nobody knows who you are.
And you're
it's
not
the same
on
thing
the
with
Travel
shows.
Channel.
Yeah, it's the same thing with shows, right? Like you go to a conference or, a convention or something. If they don't know, they don't go.
Yeah.
And this is a conversation that I have a lot with like Reddit people that talk about podcasts and stuff because I get on Reddit and try to share some wisdom. Do you think I should be doing social media? And there'll be people that go, no, it's not worth the effort. And then there'll be other people like, well, yeah, you should do the big ones like, Tumblr and stuff you haven't heard of, right?
Yeah.
And they put it out there, and they're like, yeah. And I'm like, you're an idiot, man. You got to do them all.
Yeah.
If nobody knows or cares more about your show than you do. Nobody else cares. There's like over 5 million podcasts out there.
Yeah.
5 million. And guess who cares? Nobody. We're in like the top, I think it's like 600 podcasts. We're up in the top. You know why?
Why?
Because we've put out 250 episodes. Most podcasts die after like 2 months or so. It's crazy, right? It's like, and nobody pumps out podcasts and pumps up the whole podcasting thing more than the people making the podcast.
That's true.
Yeah, they're like, it's going to be the best thing ever. Podcasts have been blowing up since 2002.
I still get a yearly email. Go to the podcast convention.
It's coming. It's coming. Well, yeah,
this
last time.
podcast convention will teach you how podcasts are the next biggest thing.
And it's like, hey, man, the people that seem to do really well at podcasting are people that are already famous because they can get, they already have a platform. They already have an audience to bring to another version or another place to put out their content. Or you're making podcasts about talking about podcasts, which means you probably haven't ever proved yourself having a completely different podcast, right?
Yeah.
I'm going to tell you how to be podcast famous. And, they get famous by telling people how to be famous, even though they've never done anything besides that.
Yeah.
Which happens on YouTube as well. And then the financial scams. Did you know that you can upload a video of rain
for
24 hours straight, and and it's like, come on, man.
Or the people who get backed by like NPR or something like that.
Yeah.
Like when they
They're
host.
Like
there's like a good murder one called like Bear Brook or something like that, and it got backed by a local, public broadcasting.
Yeah, they had
system,
sponsors right out of the gate.
Yeah.
Who's got time for all that stuff?
So
I think the guilty little pleasure is basically been all these ghost shows and Bigfoot shows and stars getting into it and all that sort of thing. And the heavy duty, serious, intense people that are doing investigations and research hate on them.
Yeah,
and they shouldn't, because if they hate too much and these shows go away, again, nobody's going to care.
And the biggest complaint is like, oh, it's diluting the sincerity of.
Yeah, take away the integrity of the investigation by doing these shows.
And,
it's like,
really,
man?
Diluting how I don't know, entrenched it is in community and in the paranormal community. And going back to this article, like what they're talking about would be exactly that. It would be like diluting or branching out, because we're talking about the Travel Channel this year is going to feature some stuff. And I'm reading some of these shows that they're going to offer, like Halloween Baking Championship.
I'm kind of interested in that.
I like this one. The ever-popular series Halloween Wars, where paranormal investigator Zach Baggins reprises his role picking some of the world's most haunted places as the inspiration for cakes. That's cool.
I've seen that. It was like,
Granted, I'll eat up Great British Baking Show, so this is right up my alley. So
I mean, there's a bunch of shows, that are like My Possessed Pet is one. Urban Legend, Ghost Hunters,
There are some where I'm just like, I'm sorry. When certain celebrities get into the paranormal, I will sit on the fence for as long as possible until I see a few episodes or see them, prove themselves almost. And even Jack Osborne was one of those people. I was like, I'm reserving opinion for a while. And then it was like, okay, I like this dude.
Yeah, he's done enough to actually warrant, And it doesn't hurt that his dad's famous and that he knows people that does this, like Ben Hansen and stuff. But see, all these people that he knows, and you may or may not have seen on television shows, people are like, oh, that guy's just, he's not a legit.
No.
It's like, okay, well, dude's traveling the world looking at this stuff, and I mean,
Conjuring Kesha is an example where I'm like, I don't know.
You haven't watched the show, so you can't judge.
True. So.
But here's how I look at it. People get involved in the paranormal thing for whatever reason they have, but a lot of times, if it's out there and it's slightly popular, people are going to try it.
Yeah.
So yeah, we bring up the Ghost Adventure Show periodically. And we don't watch it all the time, because I didn't buy Discovery Plus. I'm like, come on, man. Anywho, if it's back on regular TV, I'm going to hit it.
Yeah.
I'm going to watch it. Sure, why not? Got nothing better to do. Where's my Bigfoot shows? And people hating on them, too.
Yeah.
Oh, well, they were a scientist 10 years ago. What are they doing now? Now they're on the show, so I wouldn't really call them a scientist. And it's like, Reddit angers me when people say stuff like that, because it's like, dude, number one, you've never gone and done any kind of investigation whatsoever. You must be an armchair scientist. It's like, come on, man. And, it kind of is what it is. Reddit's one of those places where basically people post their opinions and stuff. And if you have experience or ideas in whatever they're posting about, you're wrong. And they're experts. You know what I mean?
Yeah.
And one of the people that used to catch a lot of flack and still is the Skinwalker guy, the owner of the Skinwalker Ranch, which used to be called Nid's Ranch a long time ago when, what's his face was owning it.
Yeah.
Why can't I think of his aerospace guy? I can never, Bigelow, when Bigelow was owning it, is Brendan Fugel.
Yeah.
And, I don't think a lot of people realize, he's owned that ranch for a while. This has not been like he just bought it for 2 seasons so he could film a show. He's owned it for a while.
Yeah. When did he buy it?
It's been years. I mean, it doesn't say exactly, but when Bob Bigelow put it up for sale, it sat kind of dormant for a couple of years. I mean, there was a skeleton crew there because it is a working ranch in Utah.
Yeah.
And then, he kind of came by and sort of looked it up because he likes this kind of thing. He's interested in it. He's not buying it for the money, And like he said, to date, I haven't made any money off this ranch because he did an interview, a little video type interview.
Yeah.
With a YouTuber / person, and talked about it in great and agonizing detail for about 45 minutes or so. But the idea that he's bought it to make money and all this other stuff is kind of silly because the guy is a real estate mogul. He has tons of money. He has the interest to it. And it seems like he has a legitimate curiosity towards the events that's happened at Nid's Ranch, which has been coined and turned into Skinwalker Ranches, So I thought that was...
I do like how he dips into some of the more elusive phenomenon, such as like the hitchhiker effect.
Yeah, and he and he talks about his crew and Travis and all that sort of thing, and he's worried about hitchhiker effect and it could cause problems, and people have had health issues with this whole thing. And at the end of the day, you've got people who are like, oh, it's just fake, and it's like, no, it's not fake. It hasn't been fake since it was owned for 20 plus years with Bigelow. Right. And you've got people that are like, I will never go back there again.
Oh, wow. So the interview, though, and going with the whole hitchhiker effect and other things. So I guess the previous season, we got to see one of our favorite people, Navajo Ranger Jonathan Dover.
Yeah.
Because we've seen him talk. Love that group. When he does his talks, they're the kind that put, goosebumps on your arms and don't go away. But
yeah, because they don't embellish. It's to them, it's matter of fact. Here's what I experienced, and this is what I can tell you to do or not do.
And I would love to see them explore the whole hitchhiker effect and see if there's a resolution using, the Ute tribe that's right next door, literally right next door to the ranch. Or maybe, Mr. Dover can look into things too because he's Navajo. And, there were skirmishes between the Ute and Navajo. So my theories, my own personal theories regarding some of this high strangeness at Skinwalker do relate to some of the indigenous and elemental weirdness that's going on there. So
yeah, it's a weird place.
Yeah, it's bucket list for me. So
oh, we're gonna go eventually. We're gonna get out that way, even if it's just to stand there and take a picture and says, I survived Skinwalker Ranch's locked front gate. You know what I mean, kind of thing. But see, that's the thing. It's becoming cool now because I'm starting to see paranormal investigators and these, younger crowd that are on YouTube. And like, I spent the scariest night of my life at the front gate of Skinwalker Ranch. Oh. We were in Skinwalker Ranch Valley, which is, all that kind of stuff. It's the thing about what I was going to talk about with Skinwalker Ranch and Brent, is it Brendan or Brandon? Brandon Fugel is they all in that little spot there. They have like a ranch and, Homestead 1 and 2 and all that stuff. He said there's hundreds of hours of stuff that never makes it on television that is very compelling.
Yeah.
Hundreds. And, they have started their own little thing like this, like nachos and cheese or something on the weekend, whatever. They have their own little live streams that they do.
Yeah.
And you have to pay So it is kind of behind a paywall to be able to join in the live stream. And some people are like, well, since you have to pay, it's obviously fake.
No.
And in my first thought, right, and I am a cheap dude when it comes to this kind of thing, is if I got to pay to go in, I have an interest in it. I'm not going to sit there and try to troll.
Yeah.
To me, it's not worth my $5 or whatever it is to go sit there and troll in the live stream.
Yeah.
So that kind of makes sense. And then later on in the interview with Brandon, he was saying that, the people get paid that work there. He pays them.
Yeah.
Right. Because they're doing jobs. They're legitimate rancher, legitimate, all that kind of stuff. And he says that ranch hasn't made any money. It's a legit ranch. He said, so, he would like to see it monetized somehow in the future. Because, he makes money. That's his job, right? Is to collect money.
But imagine, like, if it turned into something that was monetized, like a place where you can stay or something like that.
Well, it's funny you bring that up because he said, I will never bring my children there.
Exactly.
My children are absolutely forbidden from going there. He said, my wife came there once, and she's been doing a good job of trying to keep record of all the weird events that's happening there with things like equipment outages not working and stuff. He said, but, he'll never let his children there, and there are people that will never go there.
Yeah. Imagine, like...
He said it'll never be open to the public because he can't guarantee anyone's safety.
Yeah, like the insurance clause, like, hi, I'd like protection against like high strangeness and ghosts. And,
how do you offer
and
it?
fifth dimensional entities?
Yeah, and he basically said he's not really an expert in any of this stuff, but he's very fascinated by it. He went to Zach Bagans' museum, the Haunted Museum, and he said he had some experiences there, and he didn't really go into detail, but he said, I'll never go there again. I will never, ever go back there. And there's been a lot of people who have gone to Zach Bagans' Haunted Museum and had weird effects and had issues that have never go. And there you do sign a waiver.
If we went, I would like ward up, like put wards all over me and just like, and you, and yeah.
We'll just Sharpie them all over our faces and stuff, like face and neck tattoos and stuff with sigils.
No supernatural tattoo or whatever.
I don't know, man. We'd for sure go.
Yeah.
But then you got to worry about the hitchhiker effect. And one of the questions that wasn't asked, or at least I missed it, when it goes back to the Skinwalker Ranch thing, and they talked about hitchhiking and hitchhikers, things that attach themselves to you. Do they do any kind of protection? I think they probably do now.
Yeah. Like
saging and all that stuff. And at the end of the day, they probably don't and probably haven't really done too much of that because it's probably a huge inconvenience. Well, going home I got to go back to, I'm going to go home and eat lunch now. Oh, let me sage up. Does that stuff even work for these guys? I think it probably works stronger or better from a person who doesn't do it all the time. I don't know. It's a weird thing. I know Jonathan did.
Yeah. Oh, yeah.
Because he did it after our talk.
I know.
We went to, it was a conference, not conference, it was a meeting that happened in New Mexico. It was like a monthly meeting. New Mexico Paranormal Forum.
Yeah.
Paranormal UFO Forum. I can't remember the name.
UFO and Paranormal Forum.
UFO, yeah. They came and talked, and then after everybody left, we were up there chatted with these guys for
an hour.
Yeah, and they were cool with it because they were packing up. And I told them, I was like, hey, man, you guys are packing up. You don't have to. You can keep packing up. We're just kind of talking a little bit.
Yeah.
And he was like, cool, all right, yeah, because they wanted it because they're going back to Arizona. It's a ride, right? So, yeah, and he talked about we do this all the time. We have our own blessings we do. And he's like, we did it before we came in here, and we're going to do it after. And they're really very diligent in what they do. The Navajo Paranormal Rangers. Yeah. So if you ever get a chance to see these guys, if they ever do it, I don't know. It's just kind of a strange thing. But we'd for sure do it. I think going to the Paranormal Museum or the Haunted Museum.
Yeah, and
because he's got stuff.
Yeah.
He's got stuff there. Kevorkian's Volkswagen and stuff like that. So not like, hey, got this from a thrift store, haunted as hell. They ain't like that.
You know what though? Those are just as valid.
Okay, they could be.
Yeah.
But when you have enough weird stuff happen, and it gets known for being haunted, that's a little bit different. Yeah. But anyway, I thought it was a pretty interesting interview. If you guys are into Skinwalker Ranch at all, it's probably worth listening to, or at least watching, to get a better idea, because he's been painted as some kind of weirdo in a lot of circles, and he's not. A lot of them have been painted as just being, these guys are all fake, they're a bunch of weirdos. It's like, okay. No. I forget you're an expert. Oh. I did not recognize your doctorate degrees in multiple fields as being an indicator that you may or may not know something you're actually talking about. Oh, God. Me in my wheelchair, or my Reddit chair, right? My science-based chair. I can sit here and surmise it's just funny listening to him talk. It's the same thing if you look at like van dwelling stuff.
Yeah.
Or camper van stuff. 99% of those people that read and supply information in those subreddits and Reddit threads have not spent one day or even one night in a camper van anywhere. But they are experts. Yeah. So this was something I thought was pretty interesting. This is on Coast to Coast AM. And we do have links to everything we talk about in the show notes. So if you'd like to kind of something found your interest, piqued it, you'd like to click it.
So I didn't know you were going to share this, and I kind of have a little bit of a concern about this.
I don't know what you're talking about.
This over North Carolina.
Over North Carolina? What?
Yeah.
The pilot?
Yes, the pilot that films the Foo Fighter UFOs over the North Carolina skies.
Yes.
Yeah. So this happened, August 12th? Friday?
That's what it said.
The intriguing incident reportedly occurred Friday, August 12th, as the unnamed witness was en route to Washington, D.C., while working for, quote-unquote, a major airline in the United States. The sighting began when he and the captain of the aircraft noticed some pulsing lights off in the distance. Over the next 35 minutes, the duo watched the weird illuminations, which the witness described as lasting around 8 to 10 seconds and building gradually from dim to very bright before fading into the darkness. Now, way out here where we live in North Carolina, me and somebody else saw something similar, and we just chalked it up to satellites. But this, because it's up in the air, it does seem a little different.
It was, he said basically very few civilian aircraft can fly above 41,000 feet.
Yeah.
And he said the objects were about 10 degrees above the horizon from their perspective. And the witness observed that the objects never seemed to get any closer, and even though they covered about 250 nautical miles at that in that time, so that they never got closer, they stayed about 41,000 feet. So the puzzling aspect of the sighting had led the pilot to theorize that they were either up in the upper atmosphere or in space.
Huh. So,
and he said that, these pulses occurred like 80 times. Like where it would go in and go out kind of a thing. It says there occasionally appeared to be 3 objects in total.
Yeah.
And the sighting only came to the conclusion because the aircraft had began to descend on its way into its eventual destination. And that's how they were able to kind of take a look and see it was more than one. And it says, as for the anomalous pulsing lights, that they could have been... He argued that the capability of the objects combined with the duration of the sighting would have been basically maybe military craft, flares, satellites. He doesn't think that it's any of those.
So at 2 minutes and 29 seconds on this video.
Because there is a video and there's a link to Coast AM.
I can't tell if I don't think that's his phone, but one of the objects does move in a very interesting and erratic, not planned, slightly organic manner.
Yeah. So
that's really weird right there. And again, that's 2 minutes and 29 seconds. You start to see that, and it does it for till about 2 minutes, 46 seconds.
Right. And so since we broadcast paranormal weird news and our experiences from our underground bunker in basically western North Carolina, I had to put it.
And then his phone loses focus. Yeah, so
as it would if it's so far away and there's no real detail to grasp onto.
That's why I don't really, even with I have a decent phone. I have a very decent phone. And, upstairs, I'll go out and smoke in the evenings or whatever. And I'll see some strange stuff very similar. In fact, that week right there was some stuff that I thought was satellites or something weird, especially towards the north. But trying to get it on the phone.
Yeah, well, it's not going to happen. As much as people love cell phones and cameras, and like, well, they're just as good as any camera out there. It's like, no, they are absolutely not.
And
because you pull out a 700 millimeter, which would cost you an arm and 3 legs.
Yeah.
Or even something like a 70 to 200 millimeter lens.
Yeah.
with big glass, when you have lens the size of a Coke bottle, right? You're going to reach out and grab closer, because when you get to a cell phone, let me zoom in. Okay, let me digitally extrapolate what we got going on here. These phones, the sensors on them are size of like tip of rice.
Yeah.
Whereas the sensor in a real camera, 1 inch, these huge CMOS sensors and, back, anyway. And camera junk we can talk about for a long time.
Image stabilization is all software based.
Well, not all of it, but in the phone it is. Yeah, I mean, there is some degree of physical, but it's not like a camera that has like in-body image stabilization, and the lens has image stabilization, like physical. Yeah, like physical. Well, you have to be kind of specific, because there'll be one person that'll be like, "That's not how cameras." And it's like, I will go toe to toe with you with cameras any day of the week, bro. But yeah, it's so. I thought it was pretty interesting to put that in there, because I was trying to think at the time: was Starlink moving into position? Is it possible that if he's seeing stuff at 41,000 feet and he's that far away, were Starlink satellites, kind of slowly getting into their geostationary orbit? It's possible, because we do see them. But I couldn't really find anything, to be honest. I just kind of like, that's something interesting. I'd like to put it in here. They don't say exactly where they were going. They say they were going to D.C. They don't say what actual direction they were coming from. Like, were they flying along the coast and we're going to dogleg into it or what? But, excuse me, I definitely wanted to at least kind of put that in there. Because
there used to be a website where you could look up when, like, the dates that Starlink
it's still
launched.
Out there. I couldn't remember where it was. And honestly, it's getting to the point where how many hundreds of Starlink satellites need to be deployed before people stop figuring out that they're not UFOs and actually satellites.
Yeah.
There's a term for multiple Starlink satellites that are moving through this, through the sky, basically, right, to get up into space. It's called a Starlink train.
August 12th, 2022, on Friday, August 12th, at 2:40 p.m. Pacific time, Falcon 9 launched 46 Starlink satellites to low Earth orbit from Space Launch Complex 4 East at Vandenberg Space Force Base, California. So I pulled that up. And that's direct from SpaceX's website.
Right. Only problem I have with that is it can take a long time for these things to get into position.
Yeah.
And North Carolina is a couple thousand miles away.
Yeah.
Oh, I get it that the higher you get in elevation, the shorter the distance appears. But I don't know if it's necessarily Starlink or not.
Yeah.
And they usually stay pretty well lit.
Yeah, that's the other thing. Like, we've had a new light appear, and it's not Mercury or Venus or whatever, from the southern direction of our sky. And I'm still trying to figure out what it is. I know it's a star, probably, or planet. It's just I can't figure it out.
Maybe it's Uranus.
Thanks.
I was going to say the international,
from the south, so.
The International Space Station, but that thing has a lot of reflections going on from solar panels and stuff. So a while ago, the Georgia Guidestones were blowed up.
Yeah.
And, people have ideas about what the messages and the inscriptions in the granite meant and what it didn't mean, and if it was supposed to be a warning or a threat. Either way, it was a large granite installation in Georgia. I think it was Elbert, Georgia. Or no, Elbert, I don't remember.
Elbert County in Elberton.
It blew up because somebody blowed it up, and then they eventually came by and said, well, we got to blow the rest of it up because it's pretty unstable. Which makes sense. I mean, you don't want somebody getting out there, because there are fools who got, I'm going to give me a little piece of that, and the thing falls on them, and then, there you go. You have a contentious lawsuit. But so they're going to donate, because they were thinking, well, maybe we could rebuild it or whatever, but they're going to basically donate the Georgia Guidestones to the Elbert Granite Association. And I thought that Elbert Granite Company, or a company in Elbert, I thought they actually made it to begin with. Yeah, they were
commissioned to make it. And then it was donated to the county after, I guess, a private owner's death at one point. So, yeah.
So it looks like it's going back to the creator.
Yeah.
So I don't know how I feel about that. I don't know if they're going to rebuild them or not. I don't know if they should.
And here's my big problem, because I think any holdback to not rebuild them stands with the opinions of people who live in the county. And I understand, or I don't understand, I see this sentiment common in smaller counties and places, because Board of Commissioners chairman declared that the county isn't in the monument business. I've heard the same thing out here in Western North Carolina.
Yeah.
The county's not in the Bigfoot business. The county's not in the ghost business. And I'm like...
And you know what I hear? So you don't like money.
Yeah.
And you don't like people coming into your town.
Yeah.
And basically making commerce better.
Yeah.
So that you could actually buy better library books and stuff like that. Oh, you don't like that. So you want to open up a bunch of stores that are all the same, that only old people go to, that nobody cares about.
Yeah.
Like, I mean, how many...
You want to make yourself so unappealing that even fast food restaurants
don't want to show up.
Don't want to build in your town or city.
Yeah. It's like, oh, okay, I understand. Yeah. It's like, oh, you don't want a store that's going to bring people in, and then you're going to say, well, we just need something to keep the youth here because they're moving away. But you won't let them put in stores or have younger possible first-time business owners actually open something that may be counter to antique stores, coffee places.
We live in such a small town out here in Western North Carolina that they don't even want to build younger clothing stores.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Well, because I don't know why a lot of the small towns have that mentality where they want people to show up, but they don't want to do to get them there. And then when people get there, they don't want them to stay. It's like you've had your coffee and your cookie, go now.
And it's not even good coffee. Cookie. Sorry.
And we're not singling anybody out. You know, we're just basically saying a small town mentality is wrong. And we actually went a couple different times to see the Georgia Guidestones, and you pass through a whole lot of nothing to get to this, which is basically in the middle of nowhere.
Yeah.
And by nowhere, I mean, you're about, 5-10 miles away from anything of any kind of importance. But to that person, I would say, why don't you put them back up, right?
Yeah.
And then, get some T-shirts made.
Well, according to the county administrator,
and some ice cream or something.
There is zero interest from the board in an elected body taking a role in rebuilding the Guidestones.
Yeah, you know why? They don't want to pay.
The money is there, according to this article.
Oh, of course. No, but see, that's just it.
Yeah.
You don't want to tell your people that you don't have any money. Oh, we got the money. We just don't want to spend it. It's like, I don't know.
So,
I mean, they could make a miniature version of it. I mean, who knows? Really, at the end of the day, when it comes to the Guidestones, I thought they were an enigmatic thing that I thought it was great to go look at and see so you could make your own decisions on what you thought it was. Because not everything is evil, not everything is the devil, and not everything is a secret organization trying to take over the world. Just in case they're listening. We're not the bad guys here. But, I had to put it in there because I thought about it. I'm like, I wonder what they're going to do. And then I looked and found the article on Coast to Coast where they basically said, here's an article from somewhere else, and basically said, we're not gonna rebuild it, and we don't really care. We're not really into it. Is what the city and all that stuff's saying, which basically means it ain't doing nothing for us, so we don't want to put no money into it. But a lot of small towns are like that. It might cause some embarrassment for a potential customer, so we don't want nobody to know our dirty laundry or whatever, right? But we're not going to do anything about getting new people in. If we put up a sign that says bike trails, people will show up. And like, oh, I'm on the internet. I have a $150,000 camper van. Let me go park and ride the trails. Oh, let me get harassed by the police after I'm done. Right? Take you and your crappy van and get out. Dude's rocking like a $250,000 camper van. Right? Rinsing off the mud. No, you can't do that here, bro.
But that guy in that $250,000 camper van has to find those bike trails. If you don't bother putting them on the internet or marketing them appropriately.
You know what you do? You call it your best kept secret.
Oh, God. On one tiny blog.
Yep. That's all it takes.
All right.
It is these days. I mean, if you can get to the top of the search engine optimization, you can have your one little tiny blog ruling the world. So this is something that Omi put in here, and I thought was pretty cool after I kind of looked at it. And I'm like, well, this is kind of skewed.
The states with the
these states
credible?
have more credible.
Okay. So
credible.
Yes.
Bigfoot sightings than others, according to Bigfoot investigators. So this is what I like about this, right? More credible Bigfoot sightings according to Bigfoot researchers or investigators.
Yeah.
It's like, all right.
Yeah. So I don't want to go into this whole article because the reason I put this in was because I had clickbait in the morning the other day when I opened my phone and I see the daily news. I totally fell for a headline saying South Carolina sees 50% increase South Carolina County sees 50% increase in Bigfoot sightings this year alone.
So if they had one and they see another one, that makes two. That's a 50% increase, correct?
You just summed up the entire article.
Yes.
In one sentence. Yes. And I was so mad because I fell for it.
I know. You actually sent this to me, and I'm like, what is this? So I look at it, I'm like, this is a nonsense thing.
And basically they said that, 50%. And then they, like, 3 paragraphs about shooting up 50%. And they said, earlier this year in May, we had a Bigfoot sighting by 3 people. And just last week, we had 1 more Bigfoot sighting. And I'm like, that's 2. That is 2 Bigfoot sightings.
Yeah. I mean, it's exciting, and there is something going on, right? If more people are seeing stuff. But, if somebody was like, we had 5 Bigfoot sightings 2 years ago, we've had 15 this year. Like, whoa.
Yeah.
That's substantial.
Yeah.
That's like gas money worthy right there. It's like, let's go.
Yeah.
If you had one person see it and then another person seeing it, you're like, what? That's like when you see a shampoo bottle, right, where it says has 25% more than another than the bottle, right? It has 25% more. It contains 20% more than 16 ounces, or something like that. And you're like, what? And you look at it, and it's like it's 18 ounces. So you're like, wait a minute, you didn't give me 25% more. It's just that the bottle is a little bit bigger.
What you're saying is that the Bigfoot math is the same as paper towel math.
No, toilet paper math.
Toilet paper math.
Yeah, which is it's impossible to decipher that.
6 Bigfoot sightings equals a 24-pack of Bigfoot sightings.
This has 250 yards of toilet paper. Each square, right, has so many squares to equal 250 yards. Like, well, what's the standard measurement of a square of toilet paper?
Yeah. I don't know.
I don't either. It's like where I need that number to give me, it's like this is like going back to school and you're like 8 or whatever, and they're like, guess what? Remember you had 4 apples?
Yeah.
Now apples equal X. And you're like, what the hell are you talking about? So they're using that Common Core math for this kind of like sightings thing. And I get where they're coming from.
If X equals whatever, solve for Bigfoot.
Yeah. So X equals 5 and Bigfoot equals Y.
How many UFOs are in the sky?
Yeah.
That's our word problem for the today folks.
Yeah. So if Bigfoot's traveling down the coastline, whatever, right?
But I do want to point out that despite the region we live in, which is, Western North Carolina, Blue Ridge Mountains, Appalachia, the top 10 on here is, as far as most sightings since BFRO's inception, there's a caveat there.
Yeah, which is Bigfoot Field Researchers Organization.
Yeah. So Washington, it's like 708. California, it's 459. And then it just Florida, Ohio, Illinois, Oregon, Texas, Michigan, Missouri, and
so
Georgia.
Oregon, Illinois has 300. Okay, let's do it. This is kind of telling, right? Washington and California are huge states.
Yeah.
When you compare it to someone like Ohio. Yeah. Like Florida has had 337. Ohio has had 318.
Yeah.
Ohio's not that big.
No.
So that's kind of impressive, right? Illinois, 302. Oregon, 257. Texas, 253. Texas is huge.
Yeah.
But if you think about the landmass and how large that state actually is and how much of it sucks when it comes to being... No, listen.
Yeah.
You have... I mean, if you're a Bigfoot, right, you want to go where there's like vegetation and stuff because you probably want to eat on your trip.
Mm-hmm.
If driving a car across Texas takes 2 days, can you imagine how... And that's like at 85 miles an hour, your hair on fire.
Yeah.
Walking's going to take a while. So you're trying to go to the areas that have vegetation and stuff. So Michigan, 225. Missouri is 166. Georgia was 139. And I don't know how many West Virginia had or Kentucky had, but I'm surprised that they're not in this.
Yeah, that's what I'm saying. It's like I'm so surprised that the only like southern, like southeast state, if you can even consider it, is Georgia on this list.
Well, Florida.
Florida is its own animal. I mean,
yeah, but
really
it's kind of attached to. I mean, that's about as far south as you can get. They even have a little buoy marker that says this is the furthest south is placed.
But I'm talking, like the traditional Appalachia South, and Blue Ridge Mountains South, the country-ish South.
Well, you're excluding Tennessee with that.
Yeah,
too. So
it's not on there, But the whole Oregon only has 257. That is shocking to me. But then you think how big Oregon is. Yeah.
Yep. So yeah. Certain other states, meanwhile, have had drastically fewer sightings. And the sightings with the least are Hawaii, which had 0. Connecticut had 5. Delaware had 5. North Dakota had 6. And Nevada, which they didn't even list in. So, I don't know. I mean, I thought it was kind of neat that it fell under weird news, but at the same time, I kind of thought, well, it's like, well, that's kind of no news. But they do talk about BFRO and the Bigfoot, Field Researchers Organization, and how many, like they've got nearly 75,000 reports of Bigfoot sightings over the years, but they only consider between 5,000 to 6,000 of those to be credible.
Yeah.
Which is cool. That's still a lot. Most people say, well, I don't think it. I mean, if you think about it, you have 75,000 sightings of something, and 5,000 to 6,000 of those may be something. And I'm not exactly sure what criteria they use, because to be honest with you, it seems like some of the criteria they use for Bigfoot sightings sort of skews itself or varies towards the area that it's in, but or the people actually doing it. I don't know. I'm kind of skeptical when it comes to a lot of this stuff, because there doesn't seem to be too much uniformity amongst one place versus the other in how people act when they're doing it. We've heard complaints with MUFON, and we've heard complaints with other places, like, in their own organizations, right? And BFRO and MUFON, it's like, yeah, you can go here and you can go hunt for Bigfoot with me, $500. Go here, hunt for Bigfoot with me, $200. It's like, okay, it needs to be some kind of guidebook or something. It probably is. I don't know. Maybe I'm speaking. I know I would never spend $500 to go look for Bigfoot.
Yeah.
Unless, there's a possibility I might get me some Bigfoot. You know what I'm saying?
Yeah.
I mean, I got to have something, not just your word, bro. Hey, we've seen this Bigfoot 1,000 times. Where's your pictures, bro? You going to share? Let me see it. Give me some tangibility, right?
Okay.
Gas prices are, they're no joke, man.
Yeah. Maybe it's like when we went.
No, I don't want the trust me, bro.
Yeah.
I don't want that.
Maybe it's like when we go, like, gold panning and gem hunting. The more you pay, the more gold that might be in the bag. The more you pay, the more Bigfoot might be in the bag.
Hey, yeah, the more you pay, the more likelihood you have to see it. But that's, I think it's a sliding scale with that kind of thing, right? It's a law of diminishing returns.
Yeah.
It's like, man, it's like lottery tickets, right? I can buy 100 lottery tickets, right? Spend $500. And if I get back $350, am I doing good?
No.
Well, in lottery language, you are. You're winning. Law of diminishing returns, man.
That's awful.
I do think some of the more credible reports are coming from people that really have no vested interest in it, kind of a thing, and they see something that shocks the crap out of them. They get so freaked out they forget to take a picture, or they take a picture and it's all crazy looking because they can't. Whatever, man. It's hard to take pictures of this stuff. I don't know. Might be wrong, but I'm not. I don't care. But I'm probably not going to spend $700 to go hunt for Bigfoot. Yeah. There's places that are like, well, hey, you can go, and but remember, man, no photography. What? No photography? Get out of here, man. So I thought that was kind of a weird thing, but this was something that, okay, if you got to worry about comets and meteorites and the world-ending kind of stuff, because, every once in a while, you see the article, we had a meteor as big as a suburban car pass by the Earth at the closest it's ever passed. And you're like, holy crap. And you look, and it's like 20,000 miles away. It's like, dude, come on, man.
I really like the size comparisons, though, because wasn't the last one the size of half a giraffe?
No, yeah, I don't know. Maybe there's some. I don't pay attention unless they're really big on me.
So one was the size
of the Empire State Building, passed like 125,000 miles away.
These units of measurement are amazing.
But see, once you get the breath of relief, you're like, oh my God, that was a close one. Don't worry, it'll be back again.
Oh, great.
Because it's in an orbit, and then you're like, oh man, it's going to get me next year, 5,000 years from now. It's like, look, man, I can only care so much. I got a lot of stuff going on. And this is one of these articles, kind of the same thing. Oh, crap, here we go. Right? When Earth's magnetic poles flip, it could be chaos.
It could be.
For future humans.
So where in the sentence is it my problem?
Yeah. That's kind of one of those things like, okay, so when the magnetic poles, right, which typically magnetic north and magnetic south, right, When the poles flip, they actually call that a geomagnetic reversal. And one has happened recently, 780,000 years ago. And, you know, in grand scheme of things, that's pretty close. And it takes between 2,000 and 7,000 years for the poles to reverse.
Okay.
And the evidence contained in magnetic minerals and rocks kind of help with this sort of thing, sort of figure it out. And magnetic minerals record the strength and direction of the Earth's magnetic fields when they're locked into place, as either be like in sediment or magma or something crazy like that. So I'm reading this going, what happens when it flips?
Yeah.
I'm thinking it's just like a whoop, and it's flipped, and all hell breaks loose because it's just like flipped and everything's crazy. Yeah. It takes between 2,000 and 7,000 years.
Okay.
That's a long time.
Yeah, I would say so.
So, what?
Why are we worried?
Yeah, I mean, I want to know what happens, but see, they don't really have any real idea of what's going to happen to humans. They can only make estimates and stuff. And in this article, they talk about birds getting lost and stuff like that because they actually have a little bit of magnetism, like a magnetic thing in their beaks or whatever to help them navigate, right?
Yeah. And
they brought up whales and stuff like that.
Okay.
You know, possibly getting lost because their ability to navigate using magnetism may be affected. Mm-hmm. I'm pretty sure if it takes between 2,000 and 7,000 years, that maybe the birds and the whales and even humans might grow accustomed to it, like maybe get used to it. Yeah. Like maybe as you keep having kids and babies and baby whales and birds and stuff like that, that maybe the information that sort of gets passed along biologically will have sort of corrected itself.
Evolve. Yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah. Adapt.
Yeah. Recurrent ancient geomagnetic field anomalies shed light on the future evolution of the South Atlantic anomaly, which is basically when they talk about in the Atlantic Ocean, what's going to happen when it flips. And it's like there's a region in the South Atlantic where the geomagnetic field is rapidly weakening, and that's why they call it the South Atlantic anomaly. And it's led to questions about its role in the geomagnetic reversal, if any. And so if you picture the Earth with the north-south magnetic bar and little waves of magnetism coming off of it, if you have a weak area, that may sort of make it easier for it to flip, is what I look at it. But they don't know. So they say in the past 180 years, the strength of the Earth's magnetic field has decreased by about 10%. And during that same time, the size of the South Atlantic anomaly has grown, and they're speculating that these events may be related to a geomagnetic reversal. So what is it actually going to do to humans? They really don't know.
Okay.
And I was kind of hoping to kind of get an idea, but they really don't know. They don't know what's going to happen with this sort of thing because, the magnetic field on the Earth varies by location, and you have some regions that are stronger and weaker in intensity, and it can be different on the Earth's surface compared to like where you are in relation to the core and the mantle boundary. They call this the core mantle boundary, SCMB, and the researchers measured the intensity of that field at the surface and at the core mantle boundary at 2020 and 650 BCE to get an idea of what's going on. Like, in other words, to get an idea, like, what happened between the year 2020 and 650 BCE, and with these measured magnetic anomalies, right?
Yeah.
And they said based on similarities with recreated anomalies, so they're using the values, right, from the past to now, we predict that the South Atlantic anomaly will probably disappear within the next 300 years, and that the Earth is not heading towards a polarity reversal.
Huh.
So the article is like, here it comes. When the Earth's magnetic poles flip, it could be chaos. And then you get to the very end of the article, after reading through all the boring sciencey stuff, not so much.
And it's funny because, like, for some reason, one of the researchers who's in this article, his name was really familiar, and I was trying to figure it out.
And this is from inverse.com, by the way. So
and this is Andreas Nielsen. And unfortunately, if you throw his name in Google, apparently there's like also a filmmaker who did some really weird stuff. So I guess they just share the same name. That's why it was familiar. But I pull up an article from like June 6th, and it says him saying in the same thing that he concludes probably the anomaly will disappear in the next 300 years and Earth will not head towards a polarity reversal at all. That's what he feels. So I'm like,
yeah, and that's what I said.
Yeah, but he's like, nope. He just says it like super short in this one article. Nah.
Yeah. Now, here's one of the reasons why they worry about this South Atlantic anomaly.
Yeah.
Is that the way the weakened magnetic field can make it difficult for satellites because of the Van Allen belt, which is this radiation thing. Man. It's all these trapped particles that hang around the Earth, and it sort of diffuses what can be coming, right?
Yeah.
So, yeah, it is. But here was my thought, and the reason why I really put this in here. If you look at magnetic ley lines, right, on the Earth, portals, all this sort of thing, and the idea that a lot of technology was lost because of magnetism, and it was basically frequencies and magnetism and things like that that allowed the ancients to have these amazing powers to be able to make like the pyramids in 10 minutes. And, some of the technology may have been found at Coral Castle, where the dude was moving these huge like limestone blocks by himself, skeletons. Anyway, if you take the premise that ancient technologies, and let's just say in general that the human race has gone through many, many sort of recycling events, and that everything is way older, and the idea that, Atlantis and the Egyptians had all this ancient mystical powers and stuff like that. If it goes back so far as to being related to magnetism as a big sort of proponent that makes all this work, and all of a sudden it stopped and the world got thrown into chaos and all this magic and ancient technology and all this stuff was lost, could have been because the poles reversed and none of it worked anymore. So places on the Earth and the ley lines and stuff that were affected, because some places have a higher level of basically magnetism versus the other. So what happens when they get reversed? Now it doesn't work anymore. So if you're off by a couple degrees, things don't work. So imagine if your power supply or your force that you're using to harness whatever it is to make things happen, like moving huge blocks, or powering quartz crystals in a way that can store energy and all this other junk. If all it gets off by a little bit, it doesn't work.
But that's the other thing. If these societies or civilizations were so intelligent that they could manage things like that, and then society collapses, and then we work ourselves back up and up again, the constant changing, because we're always going to keep being off by a few degrees, and the ley lines and polarity shifts are going to always keep happening. When does somebody anticipate that and get us past that point?
Well, I think the anticipation point doesn't really happen because you can't really make it work to begin with, so it's just speculation. And what would each sort of generation or each version of this, just say version of mankind or civilization, if it didn't work, and it's never worked, and the people that knew the technology have long gone, passed away, they're just not relevant anymore, then you create a new technology and you make that work, and that becomes part of your normal progression. Then something happens and takes that away. And then people look back and maybe find remnants or traces of it. And they don't know what the hell it is because it's not relevant to them anymore. It doesn't work for them anymore. So they create their own technology. So there were probably like human races that use sound for everything. And then maybe some more that use the magnetism to make things fly and objects and all this other crazy stuff. Because, this can go so far as to like look at some of these objects that are flying around these crazy speeds. They're allegedly engines that have been put in these things, because you can't really call them like jet engines or whatever, that uses like mercury and magnetism to basically create lifting effects and can whiz around the planet no problem because they're using this alternate form of propulsion. But what if, way back then it was a commonplace, flying machines and Atlantis and all this other crazy stuff, but then boop, poles flipped, none of that stuff worked anymore. And it caused maybe an upheaval and things got a little out of whack, and maybe the shifting of the poles pulled Pangea apart and actually became all the separate set it is. So nobody really knows exactly. What if it was much, much, much stronger a million years ago than now?
True. It's funny that we're talking about this because, I found this weird meme post from the Chive today, and I shared it to a couple of the groups I'm in, and it talks about how The ancient Egyptian civilization lasted so long and is one of the most mind-boggling civilizations because it lasted 3,000 years. That's an insane amount of time. It ended around 30 BC or 30 BCE, meaning that it will only be extinct for as long as it existed in around 950 years. So in 950 years, it will have been 3,000 years since the entire civilization of ancient Egypt. Cleopatra lived closer to the invention of Bitcoin than the building of the pyramids of Giza. They were already ancient to her when she was in power.
Yeah.
So we have records from the time of Ramses II of ancient Egyptians doing archaeology on monuments that were already discovered 1,000 years old to them.
Yeah.
Ancient Egyptian archaeologists and paleontologists.
Okay, having been to Egypt
Yeah.
and spent some time there,
Yeah.
the thought occurred to me, these people did not build this stuff. They inherited this stuff.
Yeah.
And they claimed it as their own.
Yeah. It's just that, so their civilization was already going on for 3,000 years.
Yeah. And if you go back to where they say, 10,500
Yeah.
years old is the average, or is the possible age of the Sphinx,
Yeah.
and that it's not what they think it is, and
Like, what
that it's
the
actually
heck?
way older than that. So it's entirely possible that, because, think about the desert.
Yeah.
We've said on the podcast a couple different times, things don't go away in the desert. They either get buried and disappear, but they don't go away.
Yeah.
If your dog poops on a trail, it will be there for 2 years if it doesn't,
Yeah.
So it's entirely possible that all of this stuff, a large chunk of the stuff that's been found, it
And then,
is way, way older
what lasts longer?
than the pyramids. They're finding pyramids that are older than the pyramids.
Yeah, and some of them are like in South America, and they're like ridiculously.
Japan, I think,
Yeah.
over in
TikTok has that theory about
Kosovo
it in
and
China and stuff.
Yeah, so it's look at the Indians and the flying craft and the gods they had and all the stuff that was coming out of there. That's old too. They don't really know how old that is.
And
But everybody talks about a flood.
the flood,
The flood wipes everything out, right?
and is the
And it's
flood
supposed to start
triggered
over
by
again?
the polarity? And it's like, okay, what lasts longer? What will last or survive a natural phenomenon? And it's like, well, stone. So
Yeah.
the Sphinx. Some of the petroglyphs we see in the Southwest, they can't even put a date on some of them.
Yeah.
Are those the things that are going to last? Do I need to start?
There was a scientist who was trying to date the petroglyphs. Like, this petroglyph's probably about 12,000 years old. And they're like, no.
Yeah.
Civilization's not even that old. And you're like, well, are you talking about people walking around with sticks and stuff? No. We're talking about civilization. So they're saying the instance of modern man cohabitating together with other people, creating a civilization.
Yeah.
As being 10,000. So, what about I don't know, a couple 100,000 years before that? They potentially find fossils that are a million years old, and they found one that was a human, or believed to be a humanoid or human that's over a million years old. So if they don't really know.
What was it? In Australia, they had the human-ish footprints next to what they felt were large reptilian footprints.
Yeah. They found them. So at the end of the day, I don't think that nobody really has a full grasp on what's going on.
Yeah.
So reading this magnetic reversal thing sort of made me think about that.
I mean, what if a magnetic reversal does do something catastrophic?
Who knows? Well, according to this, we've got 2,000 to 7,500 years to worry about it. So probably not gonna.
Yeah.
So anyway, I think at this point we're probably done talking.
Yeah.
But we got one last thing to talk about before we go, and this is something I thought was crazy. So we kind of put it in here.
Oh gosh.
This guy was attacked by a gang of turkeys.
Okay.
And so this is an article, came off Coast to Coast AM, is written by Tim Banal. It says, in a testament to the troublesome nature of turkeys, a Canadian man suffered multiple injuries, including having both of his hips broken when he ran afoul of the fowl, and they went on the attack. The unfortunate incident reportedly occurred late last month in the community of Celesta, British Columbia, right? This person was called to perform a welfare check on a resident, and police were surprised when they arrived at his home, the guy got attacked by turkeys, and found that the man was badly injured in a bizarre explanation for his condition. Turkeys.
Okay.
So according to the police, the man told him that he wound up decidedly on the wrong end of the encounter with a gang of the birds, and that the skirmish had left him with a broken finger, several lacerations, two broken hips. So the cops did not have to rescue him, as the turkey thrashing actually occurred a few days earlier, and he had already been treated for his injuries.
Okay.
Yeah, it says for the bellicose birds, officials said, and this is from the RCMP, they indicated that the animals would be facing the death penalty for their crimes, which one imagines might make him a rather satisfying meal for the man with the broken hips. So I was really hoping that the dude would tell his story.
Yeah.
About how he got a couple broken hips, or more along the lines of what did he do to these young turkeys to just piss them off to the point where they broke this guy's hips? Did he owe him something? Or was he kicking at him and fell over and broke a hip and they were jumping on him?
Yeah.
I mean, turkeys are pretty fierce animals. As far as Canadian geese, you can kick it. It's like kicking a pillow. If you really got to fend off a Canadian goose attack, just kick them. Mm-hmm. You can do that. You'll survive. Turkey's got these big, long claws and those things on the back with these spars.
Yeah.
They can cut you up pretty good. They're mean.
Well, I got like a spur and a little jab from a rooster 2 weeks ago, and through my new heavy jeans, and I was just surprised because it grazed me. And yeah, it smarted at the moment, and I didn't think anything about it. And then when I went to put my pajamas on, I was like, oh my God.
Yeah.
So
you should have kicked that bird's ass.
Somebody else did, because when it kind of flapped at me and stuff, it was actually going towards a kid. So the farmer was like, nope. So yeah.
Yeah, because they really don't want, I mean, they're there to protect the flock and all that stuff, but if they're just going to
be jerks.
Yeah. Then you got to eat them.
Yeah.
I guess. Put them down. Eat them up.
So
anyway, this guy is basically saying that turkeys beat him up and broke his hips.
But it's that time of year.
Yep. Snakes biting your face off of mailboxes. Rattlesnakes doing, snakes in general.
Yeah.
Being aggressive because it's mating season. Turkeys out there beating up elderly people. I'm going to assume this guy's elderly. Because I think a youngster, I don't know. I thought it was kind of crazy. So we'll see. We'll keep an eye out for people getting attacked by wildlife.
Yeah. As
the year progresses to see if there's anything exciting. So I think that's where we are with that.
All right. Well, thank you, everybody, for tuning in. Questions, comments, concerns, contact at CreepGeeks.com, or visit CreepGeeks.com and click the Contact Us form, or use the phone number that we put at the top of our show notes. Everything we talked about on this show, you can use the show notes for our podcast episodes to follow along or click and read for yourself. I do want to thank our Patreon supporters as well. And if you're interested in supporting the podcast, we do have some items up on our Etsy shop where we've partnered with me, Craft Intent. Get yourself some Paranormal Investigator stickers. Yeah. And that link is also in the show notes.
Very nice. All right, so anyway, there you go. If you have any questions, comments, concerns, let us know. If you have anything you'd like to share with us, let us know. It's good talking to you. If you would like to follow us, you certainly can. We're available everywhere. Pick your favorite player and sign up. If you want to do a review, you can do that.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's cool. It's all good. So anyway, see you later. Take it easy. Bye-bye.
Bye.